Speak to somebody, find yourself a mentor. If you can't afford it, find yourself an expert. Help you to chart that, because there's some fundamentals that are just given. It's not something you can make up. Sometimes, yeah, you have some people who one off the makeup as you go along the way. We know that. But in these times, it is best to be equipped with the professional skill sets as much as possible.
Welcome again to Keep On Pushing Stories, where we share with you real life stories of persistence, determination, perseverance. And this morning, I'm excited to join or have my friend Irwine Clare join us. Irwine, thank you for gracing us with your presence here and Keep On Pushing Stories.
I'm always honored to be in great company such as yours. Olympians are one of my admirers, and I admire you for what you have done and respect it a great deal, not only in what you have done, but have used that platform to do in your present life and to impact mankind.
Indeed. Thank you, my friend. So look, I know that you are what I would call a consummate servant leader, Irwine, but for those who don't know you, please tell us what it is that you do. How do you serve? How do you impact the lives of others?
I start with this mantra, Devon. My mother, from whom I think the inspiration to do what I do now flows. She instilled in me that if if you're in a position to help someone, then I'm obligated to do so. And that comes with a whole lot of connotations and interpretation. My interpretation is that I've availed myself in the second trance of my life, leaving corporate America. I availed myself to the community upliftment and building, providing my services where I can, somehow be instrumental in encouraging someone to become empowered. Because once an empowered person, they go out and do what they have to do. It's not about giving them helping them to acquire what it entails to get the apparatus to fish. So, in summation, that's how I see myself, as the little cog there trying to help a man get ahead. Sometimes, it's very disadvantageous for you because, if you don't balance it right and ensure that your platform is for, then you could also have a problem, But it has been a worthwhile experience for me.
Yeah, yeah. So you call yourself a little cog. Well, pretty sturdy little cog. But can you talk to us a little bit about some of the specific ways in which your little cog is helping to empower other cogs?
The first and foremost I'd like to say is that when I transitioned from corporate America to where we are today in a quasi community entity, because I say that we do not have a handout for anyone to give us something to do what we do. We work on finding ways to make it happen. And one of the projects we work on, Devon, was the whole aspect of empowering our community through the acquisition of US citizenship. And I look back at today and I said myself, I juxtapose it to then and now, and I'm saying, my Lord, thank you, God, you inspired something in me. Because today I can confidently say that there are thousands of Caribbean nationals, and I say Caribbean, that's the environment in which I work in, are now citizens as a result of what I was a part of going back into the early 90s. Where we have seen over the years, persons from our community became elected officials, the clerks of the world, and many other Caribbean nationals, and so to where we are today, a little better position, to stand on firmer grounds. I'd say that, I look at that as one of the inspiring moments for me. And then into my philanthropic world, of course, Team Jamaica Bigger, about the welfare for athletes. I never ran, I never threw. Well, I did run from dogs mainly.
Well, if you grew up in Jamaica, that's a given.
All right. But my call to action there on the sports endeavor is about the welfare of our sportsmen and sportswomen. And so that's where, that's this aspect of my life finds itself.
Indeed. Sounds like a life well lived so far, my friend. So if someone wanted to connect with you, Irwine, maybe they feel like you are the person whose call could help empower them, or perhaps they want to support your philanthropic work. How would they find you?
Well, from the philanthropic side, we have a very active social media footprint, Team Jamaica Digital. You plug that in anywhere, and a whole host of stories comes up.
Yeah.
And it's earned work, you might say,
Indeed.
some
Yeah.
of those, no entitlements here. And the stories, no disrespect, speaks for themselves, because these are from the ground up. Nobody just said, let's do something here or do a marketing piece. We don't have the sophistication to do that. And then in my professional life, Devon, I have kind of lived within the stayed within the lane here, in that 99% of what I do is through referrals. And I maintain that because I do try to balance my life in the things I do. And I know that once you fly the gate open, a whole lot of things coming in. So it's my filter. My filter is through, word of mouth or referrals, because, I people come to me, I know that somebody referred them to me. And, my space right now on the downside of my life, on that side, I filter it like that. But on the philanthropic side, we have a strong social media presence. And if somebody wants to reach Irwine Clare, I try to live a clean life, so you put my name out there. Things will
Indeed.
come up. Things will come up.
I usually claim that I'm the easiest man in the world to find. It sounds like you're rivaling me. Uh, but it is what it is. So, Irwine, one of the things that we on this program are always curious about is people's keep on pushing stories. A time in their lives when they had to overcome a significant challenge, or maybe go through a change in order to accomplish something incredible, or just really to move on to the next level. And so while we have you here, I know you have lived a full life. Please tell us one of your keep on pushing stories.
I like to use this, and I should say I like to use this. I reflect on it and I realize I have not used it enough. And so I find myself in a position now where, it is a wholesome story. I have found myself now where I kind of conceptualize it. I worked in corporate America for several years. I can't say privileged now. I worked my tail off in an Israeli bank. And when I left there, I was a senior vice president, one of two Black persons, the youngest. And I, and we're going back to 1994 now, Devon. I was presented with a situation where the company was downsizing, and head of operations in any institution, you're the biggest area that they're gonna chop. I had to make decisions, and it was back then when it was coming to the end of the golden parachutes. I took one of those golden parachutes, and the bank made me happy that I wouldn't sue them. Let's put it that way. And this was to launch my foray into the business side, where I now have to fend for self. I'm entering into a market space where I don't know really what I'm going to do. I don't see myself as a Black vice president being hired by any other corporate 500 at that particular time. And so things happen, and they happen for a purpose, Devon, because then I was president of the Jamaica Progressive League. And something happened in the whole political sphere where the change or the onslaught on immigration was being given birth by a gentleman by the name of Newt Gingrich, and contract on America, which placed immigrants in a particular unsecure position if you were just a green card holder. And so with the encouragement of others, we saw an avenue here where we could begin a process to encourage Jamaican and Caribbean nationals to become citizens. But you don't have to have a rationale as to why, and all this stuff. I'm coming out of corporate America, banking. We cannot switch now to the advocacy lobby, and at the same time, how do I make money from this? How do I sustain my family? Crazy time. But I think I go back again to the whole situation. And I was able to, with the help of my partner, Winston Tucker, we set up an entity called Caribbean Immigrant Services. Not to take no funding from government, because we're trying to let people know that in order to achieve and make it work and sustainable, you must have skin in the game. You have a handout seeking employment. No, you can't have a handout seeking employment. That's how we looked at it. You must work for it. And so we created the carnival scenarios where we encourage people in, and we develop a speaking format to inform, educate, and cause to action. People always saying, Devon, back in the day, I come to America, boy, let's make some money, and I go back home. Everybody's always going back home. 30 years later, your children born here, you have 5 houses, you probably leave right from here and go straight to heaven. That's it. There's no home. The home, you understand my drift?
Yeah, yeah.
So therefore, the fact that you're going to be here for those significant amount of time, your civic duty and responsibilities become paramount. How do you protect your gains that you've made through your entrepreneurial investments and all that? You better have the politics behind it. We can own all the homes on the block. If you don't control the block, your garbage won't be picked up. Your roads won't be paved. So these are the messages that we're able to coin, rephrase, and inform our community to cause them to realize the importance. And I will tell you this. Those days were some of the most important days in my life, because not only did I make the transition, but I saw how we were effectuating people, and I began to see the faces on people and the impact on people's lives. Because by a person becoming a citizen, and their children are still under 18, their children are empowered. Their children are safeguarded from deportation in case of any trouble. Our boys and girls, especially the boys, have a higher propensity to have relationship with the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. So it became like almost like a trickle down. I wouldn't say trickle down, but it just grows and spread and impact families. When sometimes I walk through the airport and I see a person, they point me and say, I don't mind to get my citizenship, I don't mind to make me can go see my daughter in Jamaica after. These are things that right here and says to me that my mother's words have been manifested. And it keeps me motivated. And I try to share that with people. I said many times in my organization and people I work with, I've been involved in several organizations. I always said this. Passion is not transferable. But what I share with you as an experience can be utilized to build your passion. You know what I'm saying? So I look back, that is something that is fundamental to me. And like everybody else, I have gone through my personal challenges, family life and others, sacrifices. Because it's not something you go into and you just choose to stay at home and click on your phone and like and all. No. The rubber hits the road, and it's a direct hit.
Yeah,
it's hitting you. So yeah. I look back and I'm grateful for the wonderful people like yourselves who have been privileged to have met along my journey. And so yeah. I am a rich man.
So, bro, I hear you talk about making that transition from the corporate world to the world of entrepreneurship now, right? Not even knowing what you're going to do, but knowing that you have to do something. So talk to us a little bit about the mindset there first, even before you get to the, the formation of the immigrant service. Um, how you're processing this new road that you have to travel. Because many people go through that, right? Whether it's the golden parachute or the belongings in a box as you march through the door.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to say up front, and for people now at that crossroads right now, I would say if you are in a position where you can get yourself a mentor who has a large person like yourself who would have been there and seen these things, or even, and that's one, or an expert, invest in an expert. Let's cut the BS here now. To help you to chart that course. I would say, and this is probably being a tinge of arrogance, I would say if I was smarter, and engage those type of services, more than likely, I could have produced more efficiently, better. I look back at it now and I see, because I'm sure I made some critical errors there that utilize resources unnecessarily. And we're not into the game to make things just fly out freely, because it's hard to come by, right? So I would say to that person right now, Devon, if you can't afford it, speak to somebody, find yourself a mentor. If you can't afford it, find yourself an expert. Help you to chart that, because there's some fundamentals that are just given. It's not something you gotta make up. Sometimes, you have some people who one off the makeup as you go along the way. We know that. But in these times, it is best to be equipped with the professional skill sets as much as possible. That's one side of it. The other side, you must have, I believe, an understanding as to what is it you want to do. And once you make that decision, be prepared that it comes with consequences. Not a free ride. Not going to drive the Maserati just like that. Not going to have the big 5-bedroom house just like that. My mother usually says that today I go out shoveling SHIT in the morning, because it come evening time, the plan is to own the SHIT road. You understand?
Yeah.
Because of a plan. Have a plan. And so that's how now when I look back in retrospect, and I see it. But back then though, I think the motivation was, to do. Back in my earlier lifetime in high school, when I became conscious of certain things, it was all about the revolution. We're going to fight the revolution, blah, blah, blah. We never stopped to think about how we're going to pay for the revolution. In my lifetime, I'm still a radical, but a radical in pinstripe blue, because I have a cognizant awareness as to the fact that the revolution has to be paid for.
Always, whether it's personal or otherwise. So as you kind of transition, from corporate world, and now you're working to serve the community. If I may add, I'm sure a rather skeptical one, because as I say, we all come here with a 5-year plan to make our riches, drink all the milk that we can, pick up all the gold off the streets and head back to Jamaica. With no thought that we are going to actually be here for a while. What kind of pushbacks were you getting trying to convince people that you're here and you need to lay down proper roots to include becoming citizens?
Enormous. Sell out. You don't belong yourself. It's not my country. It's Babylon. But guess what? It is in Babylon that you make money to put food on your table. You understand me?
Yes.
We had to come up with the practical answers where a man can touch and feel and realize. So we involved ourselves, like for example, back then too, and these are good touch points. We were also involved in the creation and the manifestation and the build out of the dollar van industry. Right? That was now something that the average man was on the cusp of becoming an entrepreneur. Came out of a van, he was an entrepreneur. You could see now him make up money, him start buy a house now, but guess what? It was not necessarily legitimate immigration wise. But we were able to form partnerships there and help many of these persons become legal immigrants, in some cases, and citizens. They now began to realize that as part of the economic fabric, that what they do would impact society. And when politicians now start looking at them as a, wow, this is good, they were now able to start leveraging that. When you start using these examples to others, then a person start realizing and can connect the dots. Because, you know, just to say in isolation, become a citizen and do that. No, it doesn't resonate. Because they can tell you right away, I have a green card here that allows me to live on earth. But no, we have to build on that about your children. How do you advocate, lobby for better things for your children? Not about you anymore.
Yeah.
You remember, you know, you and I, your parents came here to do what? To better themselves, and so doing, make life better for you and I.
Yeah.
You and I carry on that legacy, but it may not necessarily be in that format, but in a different way, because our children are now born here.
Exactly. You have to push to the next level.
Push
So
level.
they you know, I can just imagine, you know, you're trying to do something great and being called a sellout, and the pain that inflicted on your emotional solar plexus, as it were. How do you deal with that? How do you advise people who are really trying to do something good within their family, the wider community, and just being, you know, hammered in that way? How do they mentally process that and still keep pushing forward?
You know, as you know, mental health is a taboo issue in our community. Even still now. It's changing, but even now. So go
Yeah.
back 30 years and just imagine it was then. It was non-existent, because so you bring it up your soft man, your
Sissy.
yes, sister. But I tell you though, in hindsight, I can see now how that not being corrected and was not corrected made into other socio family issues. Because you know, when you are availing yourself to do something external for family, impacting others, question then begs itself. Oh, how firm are you? Are you okay at home? Are you okay? In other words, are you operating? A guy's getting ready to run 100 meters. Already easy. His hamstring bothering him. All that kind of stuff. That is one of the drawback for persons like ourselves who find themselves in situations like that. We have to know, looking at it now, and being a strong mental health proponent, we must also make sure that we have that type of protection zone. And I'm not saying we're going to shelter ourselves. The zone here is actually inclusive, not exclusive. That we may be able to, I wouldn't want to say fall back on, but is being encouraged, supported.
Yeah.
You see, that is important, because you can get carried away in the external now. And I'm testimony for that. You can get carried away in the external, and you forget about your internal. If your internal is not solid enough, brethren, you prepare to speak the consequences. And I can
That
see,
is the foundation right there.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
which you mentioned earlier too, that you know you have to create a. Now we're talking about kind of the emotional internal foundation. You know,
yeah,
earlier you spoke about just coming here and creating that foundation
yeah,
for
yes,
yourself that allows you to be able to help others.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes,
mentor them, etc., etc.
yeah,
But you're right. If you're not firm
yeah,
emotionally, then you
yeah.
can't help anybody else either.
And the truth of the matter is that, and I can speak fairly and respectfully speaking, and not to cast blame or anything, these are things too that creates havoc at home, because I'm not proud of the fact to say I got divorced, and I'm not going to say this is what caused, that's what caused it. But it's more like a culmination of factors.
Yeah.
You see, not blaming anyone. The responsibility resides here. So being given the opportunity to do it again, oh, deja vu. I mean, I say it. But let me tell you, at the end of the day, family, and I'm speaking now directly to folks who probably involved in this. I'm an old man at this thing now. Family is important. And when I say family, I mean you're picking them mother and those around you. You can't tell, or you're concerned as your nucleus. Very important. Very important.
Indeed. Bro, you know, we could go on for a while. Lots of pearls just dropped on us here. Thank you for sharing with us. You know, this idea of, you know, transitioning whether voluntarily or not is really part of life, right? Life is constantly changing, and you said earlier, which is true, in those moments of transition, it's really important to figure out what the next step is going to be. And perhaps you may need a mentor, or you may need an expert, depending on your situation, to help you to kind of navigate those challenges. Um, Definitely epitomizes the keep on pushing philosophy. You know, you are definitely one who constantly is pushing forward, serving and leading. And man, I want to give you your flowers right now, actually. Appreciate you for all that you have done and continue to do, my friend. Thank you for joining us here on Keep On Pushing Stories.
And thank you for what you do, and keep on pushing yourself.
Indeed. Blessings.
Blessings.